Ahead of the G20 Summit in New Delhi later this week, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S Jaishankar has broken his silence on the absentees who have been making headlines of late. Both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping have chosen to skip the summit and send other leaders to represent their respective countries instead. Many have wondered if this could take some of the sheen off India's G20 Summit. Now, in an interview to news agency ANI, Dr. Jaishankar has said the abstentions have nothing to do with India and that this isn't the first time that a G20 summit will have a prominent leader missing in action. In fact, the minister says it doesn't matter who represents a country. What matters is what stand they take on important issues. Listen in.
Not really. I mean, look, I think at different points of time in G20, there have been some presidents or prime ministers who, for whatever reason, have chosen not to come themselves. But, that country and that country's position is obviously reflected by whoever is the representative on that occasion. So you had some occasions where you had a president or two, sometimes three, who have not themselves come. But I do think my sense from talking to the ministers certainly, and I know the Sherpas are in touch with each other. They are right now trying to hammer out the final document. I think everybody is coming with a great deal of seriousness. I mean,
will it have an impact on the outcome of the meet?
I would put it this way, that the issues are there. These are not issues that are this morning being taken up. I mean, there's a whole gestation period of 8-9 months where at different levels ministers or officials have tried to progress an issue. So this is like a culmination. These are really about 16-18 processes which are all coming together to be stitched up together to produce a summit.
All right. For more on this story, let's now go across to Ramakrishnan Sridharan, consulting editor with News9, who joins us live from Washington, D.C. Shri, welcome back to Global Lens. You heard India's External Affairs Minister there in that interview addressing a question that seems to be uppermost in most people's minds ahead of India's G20 Summit. What will be the impact of the high-profile abstentions? The Chinese president and the Russian president will be missing in action. Now, Dr. Jaishankar says this is not the first time that a high-profile leader will not represent their country at a G20 summit. It's happened before. And he says it's really not about who represents them. It could be the head of state, it could be somebody deputed by them. What matters is what they bring to the table, what stand they take on a certain issue. Would you agree?
So, Neha, Dr. Jaishankar is not just India's foreign minister, but a seasoned, well-respected, globally respected diplomat, and now respected internationally in administration as well for his, very, very mature take on issues. So when he says that, this is it's not a slight to India, and this is, a country's free. There are instances when leaders don't come. We have to, go with respect his words, definitely. But let's, look at what is a missed opportunity from the point of view of China. Now, Russia is understandable because, Putin is busy with the war and he's got other preoccupations, that he needs to take care of. But Mr. Xi Jinping runs the second largest economy, as populous a country as India. Now, he had promised to come, and then at the last minute he bailed out. So, there are some reports coming from China, from Japan, which suggest that at a meeting of the Communist Party where the former leaders and the current leaders meet, Xi Jinping was upbraided and scolded literally for the direction in which China is going. Now, so one theory is that maybe his deputy is being sent, the premier is being sent instead of Xi Jinping. I don't give much credence to that theory, Neha, for a simple reason. It is still very fresh in our memory. Just 10 months ago, how Hu Jintao was unceremoniously hauled, literally, from the National Assembly after he had sat down right next to Xi Jinping. So one of the things which Mr. Xi Jinping has done over the last, 15 years he's been in power, is to basically systematically weed out people who were anti-Xi Jinping camp. So now the Politburo, which is the most important, body of the Communist Party, that is filled with his loyalists. Now, has a sudden change happened? I mean, it's hard to say. Anything is possible. But as far as I know, this is basically, China, saying that this is how we are going to deal with our isolationism, our, issues with US in particular, and the fact that we are now taking a choice to align more with Russia so that we can be a counterbalance to US and European economies. So there is a lot that is going to be missed by his absence. We are now talking about bringing more than 1 billion people from the African Union, 55 member countries, into G20. That's a personal initiative of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, these are very important issues. How can you have development if a large swathe of population, a large part of the world, is not included in the collective prosperity? Then there are issues on multilateral framework, on debt, on funding of countries that are in trouble. So a lot of key issues were on the table. And it was very important at a time when President Biden is there, Prime Minister Sunak from UK is there, the Canadian Prime Minister is there, Germany Premier is there. When all these great leaders are there, this was a great opportunity for Xi Jinping to have come and at least started moving in a direction which gives other countries comfort and probably signals that China doesn't intend to remain a global pariah, that it is not going to dig in its heels and be the recalcitrant international player that unfortunately it has become of late, Neha.
Well, you're quite right, Shri. You have consistently maintained that this is a blow to multilateral efforts. And whether anyone likes it or not, this question will continue to be asked as to whether the absence of these leaders could in fact cast a shadow on the G20 summit.